What happens when Hollywood's grumpiest legend completely loses it on live television? In just 43 seconds, everything fell apart on Tamron Hall's stage last night. And what we witnessed was absolutely shocking. Before we get into this insane story, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. We bring you daily videos exposing Hollywood's darkest scandals. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Last night on Tamron Hall's show, things got ugly fast. Harrison Ford sat across from Tamron, and from the very first moment, you could feel something was off. The energy in that studio was thick, like everyone knew a storm was coming. The cameras were rolling, the audience was excited, and nobody had any idea they were about to witness one of the most explosive confrontations in talk show history. Tamron started simple enough, keeping that bright smile she's known for. "Harrison, thank you so much for being here. Your fans are so excited to hear from you. We've been looking forward to this conversation for weeks." Harrison just stared at her. No smile, no warmth, no acknowledgement of the audience applause. Just that classic Ford stare that could cut through steel. His jaw was tight, his arms were already crossed, and his whole body language screamed that he didn't want to be there. "Let's just get this over with," he muttered, barely loud enough for the microphone to catch. The audience laughed nervously. They thought it was a joke, like Harrison was doing that grumpy character bit he's known for. It wasn't. This was real tension, and you could feel it radiating off him in waves. Tamron kept her smile, but you could see it was harder now. Her eyes flickered with concern, but she pushed forward like the professional she is. "Well, I wanted to talk about your incredible career. You've played some of the most iconic characters in cinema history, characters that have touched generations of people around the world." "Yeah, I know," Harrison interrupted, his voice flat and cold. "I was there. I played them. What's your point?" The audience went quiet. You could hear people shifting in their seats. Tamron's smile flickered for just a second. "Of course you were. I just meant that Han Solo, Indiana Jones, Rick Deckard, these characters mean so much to people. They're part of our cultural fabric." Harrison leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms even tighter. His face was stone. "You gonna ask me about those same damn movies everyone asks me about? Because I've answered those questions 1,000 times. 10,000 times. I'm so tired of talking about movies I made 40 years ago." Tamron tried to pivot, keeping her composure. "Actually, Harrison, I wanted to talk about your environmental work. You're so passionate about climate change and conservation. The work you do with Conservation International is really incredible and doesn't get talked about enough." "Oh, here we go," Harrison said, shaking his head and letting out this bitter laugh. "You want to talk about how I fly planes but lecture people about carbon emissions? That what you're getting at? Because I've heard it all before." "No, I wasn't." "Because I'm sick of that hypocrisy talk." Harrison cut her off again, his voice getting sharper. "I do more for the environment than most people ever will. I've donated millions. I've spent decades fighting for conservation. But everyone wants to focus on the damn plane. The one plane I fly for personal reasons." Tamron took a breath. You could see her trying to stay professional, trying to bring this back to a normal conversation. "Harrison, I wasn't going there at all. I genuinely wanted to discuss your foundation work and the documentaries you've been part of. The work you've done highlighting deforestation and species extinction. That's important work." "Sure you did," he said sarcastically, rolling his eyes. "That's what they all say. Then 5 minutes in, it's all about the contradictions. All about finding the flaw." The tension was insane now. People in the audience were looking at each other, confused and uncomfortable. This wasn't how talk shows usually go. This felt real. This felt dangerous, like watching two people who genuinely couldn't stand each other, trapped in the same space. Tamron leaned forward, and you could hear a slight edge creeping into her voice. "Harrison, I'm trying to have a respectful conversation here. I've been looking forward to this interview. My team and I prepared thoughtful questions about your activism, your career choices, your perspective on the industry." "Looking forward to what?" Harrison snapped. "Asking me the same boring questions? Trying to get me to cry about some nostalgic bullshit? That's what these shows are, right? Get the old actor to tear up about the good old days? Make it all sentimental so people at home feel something? That's not fair," Tamron said. And now her voice definitely had an edge to it. That's not what this show is about, and you know it. I prepare thoroughly for every single guest. I respect your work and your privacy. I've been nothing but professional." Harrison laughed, but it wasn't a nice laugh. It was harsh and mocking. "Privacy? You had a whole segment last month about actors who don't like doing press. You showed a clip of me walking away from an interviewer at some premiere. You played it for laughs. You think that's respecting privacy?" Tamron looked genuinely surprised, and maybe a little defensive. That was a broader conversation about celebrity culture and media relationships. It wasn't personal. It wasn't about you specifically. "It had my face on the screen," Harrison shot back immediately. "You showed me looking annoyed and walking away, and your audience laughed. That makes it personal. That makes it about me." Now Tamron was getting frustrated. You could hear it in her voice, see it in how she sat up straighter. "Harrison, if that upset you, I sincerely apologize. That was never the intention. But that doesn't give you the right to come on my show and be disrespectful from the moment you sat down." "Disrespectful?" Harrison stood up a little in his chair, his voice rising. "You want to talk about disrespect? How about booking someone and then blindsiding them with gotcha moments? How about making promises about what the interview will be and then doing something completely different?" "There are no gotcha moments here." Tamron's voice rose to match his. The audience was completely silent now, frozen, watching this spiral out of control. "I literally just asked you about your career and your environmental work. Those are normal, standard questions. What did you expect me to ask about?" "Nothing is normal with you people," Harrison said. And the way he said, "you people," made everyone uncomfortable. "It's always some angle, some narrative you want to push, some story you want to tell that has nothing to do with reality." Tamron put her cards down on her desk with a sharp sound. "What people? What are you talking about? Talk show hosts. Talk show hosts. Media. Journalists. All of you," Harrison said, his voice dripping with contempt. "You act like you're doing us a favor by having us on. But really, you just want us to perform like trained seals. Jump through your hoops, say the right things, make good television." "That is incredibly insulting," Tamron said firmly, her voice strong despite the clear anger building in it. "I have never treated any guest like that. Ever. Not once in my entire career." Harrison stood up now. Actually stood up, his microphone cable pulling tight. "You know what? I don't need this shit. I really don't. I'm too old, and I've done too much to sit here and play these stupid games with you." "Harrison, please sit down," Tamron said. But her patience was clearly running out. Her hands were gripping the desk. "You're being completely unreasonable. You're attacking me for things I haven't done." "Unreasonable? I'm being honest. Maybe that's too much for your show. Maybe you can't handle honesty." The audience gasped. Some people started whispering to each other. This was spiraling completely out of control, and nobody knew how to stop it. Tamron stood up too, matching his energy. "You know what, Harrison? If you feel that way, if this is so terrible for you, maybe you shouldn't be here. Nobody is forcing you to stay." "Oh, now you're kicking me out?" Harrison laughed again. That bitter, angry laugh. Classic. Absolutely classic. Can't handle someone who won't play along with your script. "I'm not kicking you out," Tamron said, her voice sharp as a knife. "I'm saying if you're this miserable being here, if you hate this so much, you're free to leave. The door is right there." "Maybe I will," Harrison said, but he didn't move. He just stood there, staring at her. "Then go ahead." Tamron's voice was really sharp now. She was done playing nice, done trying to salvage this. "I have never had a guest come on this show and treat me with such disrespect for absolutely no reason. I asked you normal, respectful questions, and you've done nothing but attack me and my show since you sat down. Since before you even sat down." "Because I'm tired of it," Harrison shouted back. "I'm tired of the fake concern, the fake interest, the fake smiles, all of it. You don't care about my environmental work. You don't care about anything except ratings and clicks and viral moments. There's nothing fake here." Tamron was really angry now, her voice loud and clear. "I genuinely wanted to talk to you. I admire your work. I think you're talented and important. But instead of having a conversation, you came here with an attitude and looking for a fight. You wanted this to go badly." Harrison grabbed his microphone and started pulling it off roughly. "You want real, You want honest? Fine. These talk shows are garbage. They're all garbage. They're all the same. Fake laughs, fake stories, fake emotions, fake everything. And I'm done pretending they matter. I'm done pretending any of this matters. The audience was stunned. Some people were recording on their phones now, realizing they were witnessing something historic. The producers were probably in the control room freaking out, trying to decide if they should cut to commercial. Tamron's eyes were blazing. She was furious now. Then why did you agree to come on? Why waste everyone's time, including your own? Why say yes to the booking if you feel this way? Contractual obligation, Harrison said coldly, yanking the mic pack off his belt. They make you do press when you have a movie coming out. They make you show up and smile and pretend you care about talking to people like you. Well, I don't care anymore. I'm done pretending. That is painfully obvious, Tamron said, her voice cutting. And honestly, Harrison, that's really sad. It's sad that someone with your legacy, someone who's brought so much joy to people, can't even be civil for 30 minutes. Don't lecture me about legacy, Harrison snapped, pointing at her. Don't you dare lecture me. I built my legacy. I worked for 40 years. I don't need you or anyone else telling me about it or judging it or trying to define it. I wasn't telling you anything. I was trying to celebrate it. I was trying to have a nice conversation about your achievements. By putting me on display? Harrison's voice got even louder. By making me dance for your audience? By asking the same tired questions everyone asks? Tamron threw her hands up in frustration. You're not making any sense. You're being paranoid and hostile for absolutely no reason. I asked you 2 questions before you started attacking me. There's always a reason, Harrison said darkly, his eyes narrow. Then tell me, Tamron demanded, her voice echoing in the studio. Tell me what I did that was so terrible. Tell me what I said that offended you so much. Because from where I'm standing, I invited you here respectfully, prepared thoughtful questions, treated you with nothing but kindness. And you've repaid that by being awful, by being mean and nasty and cruel. Harrison was taking off his mic pack completely now, the wires tangling as he struggled with it. I don't owe you an explanation. I don't owe you anything. You're right, you don't, Tamron said, her voice shaking slightly with anger. But you owe yourself some self-reflection, because this behavior is unacceptable. This is not how adults behave. This is not how professionals behave. Unacceptable? Harrison's voice got even louder, nearly shouting now. You know what's unacceptable? Being treated like a commodity, like a thing that sells tickets and gets ratings, like a prop for your show. I'm a person, not a product, not a marketing tool. I have never treated you like a product. Tamron was shouting now too. Both of them were standing, facing each other across the desk, and the whole studio was holding its breath. I treat every single guest with dignity and respect. That's what I do. That's who I am. But you walked in here with a chip on your shoulder the size of California and decided to make me your punching bag. You decided I was the enemy before I even opened my mouth. Maybe you deserved it, Harrison said quietly. But the words hit like a bomb. The audience gasped again, louder this time. That was too far. Everyone knew it. That was crossing a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Tamron's face went cold. Her voice dropped low and icy. Get off my stage. What? You heard me, Tamron said, her voice steady and cold as steel. Get off my stage, now. Right now. This interview is over. You can't kick me off, Harrison said, but there was uncertainty in his voice now. I'm Harrison Ford. You can't just, I don't care if you're the President of the United States, Tamron said icily, cutting him off. I don't care if you're the biggest star in the world. This is my show. This is my stage, and I'm telling you to leave, right now. Harrison stared at her for a long moment. The whole room was frozen. The cameras were still rolling, catching every second of this disaster. Then he laughed one more time, that bitter, angry laugh that echoed through the silent studio. Whatever. This show sucks anyway. You suck. This whole thing is a joke. He threw his microphone onto the chair where he'd been sitting. It bounced once and fell to the floor. Then he started walking toward the exit, his footsteps heavy and deliberate on the stage floor. The audience didn't know whether to clap or stay silent, or what to do. Most stayed silent, watching in shock as one of Hollywood's biggest legends stormed off a talk show stage. As Harrison reached the edge of the stage, right before the curtain, Tamron called out, "You know what, Harrison? You used to be someone people looked up to. You used to be a hero to millions of people. Now you're just bitter and mean and angry at the world. And that's really sad to watch. That's really sad to see what you've become." Harrison stopped dead in his tracks, turned around slowly. For a second, everyone thought he might come back and say something else, or maybe even apologize. The tension was unbearable. But then, he just shook his head, gave her one last disgusted look, and walked through the curtain. Gone. Just like that. The cameras caught him disappearing backstage, his footsteps echoing in the silent studio. Tamron stood there, breathing hard, her chest rising and falling as she tried to compose herself. Her hands were shaking slightly. The audience, after a few seconds of stunned silence, finally started clapping for her, supporting her, showing her they were on her side. "We're going to take a break," Tamron said quietly, her voice a little unsteady. The show cut to commercial, leaving everyone sitting there processing what they just witnessed. That was it. The interview that never was. The conversation that turned into a war. Harrison Ford, one of Hollywood's biggest legends, kicked off Tamron Hall's show after a fight that got completely, utterly out of control. The whole thing lasted barely any time at all, but it felt like hours of tension packed into minutes of pure conflict. Nobody knows exactly why Harrison came in so angry, so ready to fight from the very first second. Maybe he was having a terrible day. Maybe something happened before he came on stage. Maybe he really does hate doing press that much and finally just snapped. Maybe there's history between them we don't know about. But whatever the reason, what happened on that stage last night was absolutely wild and completely unprecedented. From the very first question, before Tamron even finished her welcoming statement, Harrison was defensive and hostile. His body language screamed anger. His tone was sharp and cutting. And Tamron, to her credit, tried everything to salvage the conversation, to find common ground, to bring it back to something productive. But Harrison wasn't having it. He didn't want to be saved. He wanted confrontation. He wanted conflict. And boy, did he get it. The way he attacked not just Tamron but the entire concept of talk shows was shocking. The way he dismissed her preparation and professionalism as fake. The way he made everything personal when nothing needed to be personal at all. It was like watching someone determined to burn every bridge in sight. And Tamron fought back. She didn't just sit there and take it. She defended herself. She defended her show. She called out his behavior. And when he crossed that final line with, "Maybe you deserved it," she ended it. She kicked him out. She took control of her own stage and refused to let him continue disrespecting her. When Tamron finally told him to leave, you could see the relief on her face mixed with the anger. She'd tried to be professional. She'd tried to be patient. She'd tried to give him every opportunity to course correct. But there's only so much anyone can take, and Harrison had pushed way, way past that line. The image of him ripping off his microphone and throwing it onto the chair will be replayed forever. The sound of it hitting the floor echoed through the studio like a gunshot. The clip of him saying the show sucks will be everywhere. And the moment he walked off that stage, combined with Tamron's final cutting words about how he'd become bitter and mean, will go down as one of the most dramatic exits in talk show history. Tamron handled it like the professional she is, though. Even when she was angry, even when she raised her voice and fought back, she never lost complete control. She set boundaries, she defended herself and her show and her team, and when enough was enough, she ended it with authority. Harrison Ford walked off Tamron Hall's stage last night, and he left behind a mess of confusion, anger, shock, and uncomfortable silence. The audience sat there stunned, not knowing how to react. The crew probably didn't know what to do, whether to keep filming or cut away. And Tamron was left standing there, having just experienced one of the most bizarre and hostile interviews of her entire career. This wasn't a misunderstanding that got out of hand. This wasn't a sensitive topic that went in the wrong direction. This wasn't even a disagreement about something specific. This was pure, raw conflict from the very beginning. And it only got worse with every passing second. It escalated from uncomfortable to hostile to explosive in what felt like no time at all. The way Harrison attacked the entire premise of talk shows, calling them garbage and fake. The way he dismissed Tamron's genuine interest as manufactured for ratings. The way he made accusations about her using his image without permission. The way he turned a simple welcome into a battlefield. It was aggressive and unwarranted and completely shocking to watch unfold. And when Tamron finally stood up for herself and kicked him out, it felt like justice. It felt necessary. It felt like someone finally saying enough is enough to a celebrity who thought he could treat people however he wanted just because of who he is and what he's accomplished. The confrontation revealed something ugly about celebrity culture, about entitlement, about the way fame can sometimes make people feel above basic respect and courtesy. Harrison Ford might be a legend, might have made movies that defined generations, but last night he was just a difficult guest who couldn't control his temper and took it out on someone who didn't deserve it. What made the whole thing even more shocking was how quickly it escalated. Most talk show conflicts build slowly, but this was hostile from the opening seconds. Harrison came out swinging, and he never stopped. The audience reactions throughout the whole thing were telling. At first, they laughed, thinking it was an act. Then they went silent, as they realized it was real. Then they gasped at the worst moments, and finally, they applauded for Tamron when she stood her ground. That moment when Harrison said, "Maybe you deserved it," was the line that couldn't be uncrossed. That was when even his most devoted fans watching at home probably cringed. You can be frustrated. You can be having a bad day. But to tell someone they deserve to be disrespected? That's just cruel. Tamron's response was perfect. She didn't yell. She didn't curse. She just went cold and told him to get off her stage. That command, delivered in that icy tone, was more powerful than any shouting could have been. It was final. It was absolute. And Harrison knew it. The way he tried to assert his status by saying, "I'm Harrison Ford," when she told him to leave, was also telling. Like his fame should protect him from consequences. But Tamron shut that down immediately. She made it clear that fame doesn't buy you the right to be abusive. What Harrison did was abusive behavior. It was bullying. It was taking out his frustrations on someone who was just trying to do her job. Tamron Hall didn't deserve any of what happened. She was professional, prepared, and respectful. And she got attacked for it. For Tamron, this had to be one of the most challenging moments of her career. She's interviewed thousands of people and handled difficult conversations. But having a guest attack you personally from the very beginning, with no provocation, that's something else entirely. The fact that she held it together as well as she did is remarkable. She defended herself without getting petty. She set boundaries without being unreasonable. She ended the interview when it needed to be ended. And she did all of this while being broadcast to millions of people. Tamron Hall showed everyone watching that she won't tolerate that kind of disrespect. No matter who you are or what movies you've been in, she showed that there are limits, that there are boundaries, and that crossing them has consequences. The contrast between the two of them at the end was stark. Harrison, angry and bitter, throwing equipment and storming off like a child having a tantrum. Tamron, standing firm, hurt but strong, defended by her audience. One person showed who they really are, and it wasn't pretty. The other person showed incredible strength and professionalism. For everyone watching at home, it was uncomfortable and shocking but also fascinating. You don't see real conflict like this on talk shows very often. Everything is usually so controlled and scripted and safe. But this was raw. This was real. This was two people genuinely unable to get along, and one of them completely losing control. Harrison came in hostile, stayed hostile, escalated the hostility, and then crossed lines that should never be crossed. Tamron tried to de-escalate, tried to redirect, tried to find common ground, and only fought back when it became absolutely necessary. The interview ended with Harrison disappearing backstage, probably still angry, probably still convinced he was right, and Tamron trying to recover on stage, shaken but standing her ground, supported by her audience, knowing she did the right thing by ending it. There was no handshake, no apology, no attempt at reconciliation, no resolution, just anger and an empty chair where a Hollywood legend used to be sitting, and a host who'd been forced to defend herself on her own show. Just millions of viewers at home, watching one of the most dramatic and uncomfortable moments in talk show history unfold in real time.